These days, there are so many terms used to describe different approaches to health. To name a few, there's traditional medicine, allopathic medicine, naturopathic medicine, a lot. So, in this episode, we will discuss what each term means and, as a whole, how the modern and holistic approach differ. We're also going to highlight how the modern Western approach to wellness might be failing us. Now, I want to hear about your personal experiences. So if you have a story or insight to share on this topic, please send me an email, a text, or a DM on social media. You can find all of my contact information in the show notes. Hi, my name's Maria, and welcome to the Health Habit Podcast, where we simplify complex health topics into simple habits that help you feel more energized and fulfilled. If you are ready to learn about nutrition, herbalism, and all things holistic health, then you are in the right place, my friend. It is time to drop the overwhelm and start feeling confident about healing and supporting yourself naturally. We are here to create whole being wellness, so brew up some tea or crack open a kombucha and let's get into it. I have watched my grandfather's confused face in far too many doctor's appointments. And I have felt outraged by major oversights from numerous doctors. But I've also seen people completely taken off insulin after spending time in holistic health clinics. The contrast between these sorts of experience have made a huge impact on me and given me so much clarity into what is going well and poorly in our modern world. Today, we're going to be breaking down these insights. So, as a little story, a while back, my grandfather was diagnosed with kidney disease. It developed because of his type 2 diabetes. At the time, I was just beginning my undergraduate studies in nutrition and dietetics, so I knew that each phase of kidney disease required different diet changes. I made sure to come with him to one of his doctor's appointments, specifically so I could ask for a referral to a nutritionist. When I did ask, the doctor straight up told me it wasn't necessary. So, needless to say, we had a little argument. And by argument, I mean I argued and he respectfully listened. But eventually, I did get the doctor to make the referral. And my grandfather got the support he needed and delayed dialysis for a very surprising amount of time. Now, the reason why I'm sharing this story is because I want you all to know how important it is to be aware of your options. If I hadn't been aware of the nutritional component of kidney disease, my grandfather's kidney disease would have progressed a lot faster. And honestly, he might not even be alive today. So today's content is to help you build some awareness so that you can potentially explore different healing modalities, get different opinions, and really take your health into your own hands. We're going to start today's episode by talking about allopathic, or the Western conventional approach to medicine. Then we'll define what is traditional medicine, integrative and functional medicine, osteopathy, homeopathy, and finally naturopathic medicine. But as a real grand finale, we'll go over specifically how the holistic and conventional approach to health and wellness is different. So let's get right into it. What is allopathic, conventional Western medicine? So this is an evidence-based approach. It focuses on pharmaceutical drugs, surgery, radiation, x-rays, and other similar procedures. MDs, or medical doctors, are trained in this allopathic approach. So what they're really trained in here is reverse symptomology. They are looking at your symptoms and then tracing it back to a diagnosis and a drug treatment plan. As far as prevention goes, main prevention methods are going to be vaccinations, antibiotics, surgery, and standardized diets such as the DASH diet. So really, it's a little bit more invasive than the other medical practices that we're going to cover. So on the complete opposite end of the spectrum, we have traditional medicine. This is a generational or cultural knowledge based system. So it is time tested, but not necessarily scientifically backed. They're not running experiments to gain evidence as to whether or not their treatments work. They're just going to find, explore, notice what works, and then pass that on to their children, which is why it's generational and cultural. If you look at different groups of people that practice traditional medicine, their approach is going to be very different. So, thinking about MD's allopathic medicine, what would be the next step, the step closer to traditional medicine? And that is integrative and functional medicine. Now, as far as I have found, these are very similar in their approach. Usually, these are MDs who then add on an extra certification, so an integrative medicine or functional medicine certification that allows them to take more holistic approaches to wellness. Where it really differs is functional practitioners are focusing on the interconnection of all the different systems in the body and also the underlying or root cause of specific issues. And they're really focusing on treating that particular imbalance or diagnosis. Integrative practitioners are similar, but they're more focusing on increasing whole being wellness as opposed to just treating the imbalance. So these providers are going to give you more tools and practices that you can use to increase your mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being. The next step closer to traditional medicine, I'd honestly say this is like a half step, would be osteopathic medicine. So people that are going for osteopathic medicine, they're not going through the same MD program. They're going through a DO or Doctor of Osteopathy program. And from the get-go, they're looking into how environment and lifestyle can change your health and wellness. And they also receive special training in the musculoskeletal system. So they will use physical manipulation techniques similar to chiropractors, but with their own particular flavor. It's called osteopathic manual medicine. The next step would be homeopathy. Now, I'm not going to lie to you, this is the one that is hardest for me to get my head around. So, if there's any listeners that practice homeopathy, please shoot me a message. Let me know if I got anything wrong. But in essence, homeopaths believe that the body can cure themselves, and they are focusing predominantly on herbal and natural remedies. But what's interesting is they're using very minimal dosing. So, they try to use the smallest possible dose to create impact. And they also follow a like cures like sort of policy. So, simple way to think about this is onions will cause your eyes to get red, itchiness, teary-eyed. So, they would use onions to treat allergies. Like cures like. Unlike osteopaths, there's no major licensing that's required. To be a DO, you have to go through a DO program. To be considered a homeopath, there's no set program that you need to go through. Every state has different standards, but as a general rule, there's no licensing required. That being said, there are certifications that you can go through, and there's an organization called the Council for Homeopathic Certification. This group helps to monitor the different certification programs to ensure there's a standardized quality measure to all homeopathic care. Now, the next step, so the provider that I would consider closest to traditional medicine would be naturopathic doctors. Naturopathic doctors or NDs go through their own program, similar to DOs or doctors of osteopathy. The thing that's different is that they have the highest focus on natural remedies, prevention, self healing, and really just using non invasive practices. So they kind of take it a step further than osteopaths. That being said, every single provider is going to be a little bit different. So obviously, some integrative providers are going to offer incredible holistic care. So this is just meant as a general discussion of the trends. So, naturopathic providers are going to use herbalism, acupuncture, massage, yoga, and they go through their own special exam called the NCLEX, similar to the medical exam that MDs have to go through. So, DOs, NDs are their own medical providers with a higher focus on holistic health care, with naturopathic doctors being the closest to traditional medicine. Similar to homeopaths, they rely more exclusively on natural remedies. Now, let's really dive into how the holistic approach differs from the conventional approach. The first thing to highlight is that conventional practitioners rely very heavily on pharmaceutical drugs, whereas holistic practitioners are going to rely on natural remedies and alternative healing modalities. Great, but why do we care? So let's break it down. Normally, what happens when a drug is created is something is discovered. Usually, it's a plant that is discovered to have a certain response in the body. So, let's use willow as an example. Scientists discover that willow has an anti inflammatory action in the body. We want more anti inflammatory compounds in the world. So they will find out exactly what compound they think is causing that, extract that compound, and find a way to artificially synthesize it. Now we have a pharmaceutical drug, in this case, aspirin. So, the difference is that when we take a pharmaceutical such as aspirin, we're forcing the body into one particular path. This can be helpful at times, but when we force the body into a specific action, it can cause a lot of side effects because the body doesn't necessarily want to be going down that path. When we alternatively take the natural remedy in its pure form, so we're taking willow, there's a lot of different compounds at play, so the response in the body can be very complex. The body essentially gets to choose how it's going to use the remedy to affect its physiology, and that generally results in less side effect. Now let's go over the approach. Where is the practitioner placing their focus? A conventional practitioner is going to be focused on treatment and diagnosis. They are trained in reverse symptomology, so finding the list of symptoms and then tracing it back to a specific diagnosis and a specific pharmaceutical drug that can be used to treat said diagnosis. A holistic practitioner, on the other hand, is going to be focused on finding the root cause of the symptoms and then preventing the symptoms from ever developing by increasing functionality of the systems within the body. And generally speaking, a conventional practitioner, their treatment plan is going to be more aggressive and invasive. So things like gallbladder removal and surgeries, and again, pharmaceutical drugs, which have a slightly more aggressive effect on the body. There are more and more holistic providers popping up in the world today. And really, it's because there's some major ways that the conventional system is failing us. And the reason it's failing us is because the focus has become on band-aids. We're not healing the body, we're covering up the negative consequences of imbalances in the body, the negative consequences of disease. We're covering them with pharmaceuticals, we're throwing medications at them instead of thinking about why is it happening and can we stop it from happening? Can we stop it from happening with actual change? And that's why a lot of people want the medications because change has to happen. You can't expect to have no more symptoms without doing anything to change what's causing those symptoms. And that can mean diet changes, that can mean lifestyle changes. There's so many different ways. And I just want you to know that you don't need to change it all right? It's really not about taking things out of your life that bring you joy. It's about finding new and exciting things that you can enjoy within your life. But these things are going to help support and nourish your body so that you can feel better, so that you don't have to experience all those negative consequences. Here's something that no conventional provider is going to say to you. You have complete control and responsibility of your life and body. I repeat, you have complete control and responsibility over your life and body. I believe that the real magic happens when you take all approaches into consideration. You keep an open mind and you are willing to explore all the science. You are willing to explore experiential, generational knowledge. You are willing to explore every possible modality to find the one that works best for your body. Because the truth of the matter is, there's no standardized approach that's going to work for everybody. There just isn't. There's some general trends that support pretty much everyone, and those are the things I focus on in my practice and that we'll focus on within the Health Habit podcast. But there's no one size fits all. It's an exploration. The last thing I want to leave you with is when you choose to see a holistic provider, we are not judging you because you're not perfect. We aren't perfect. We're all humans. We're imperfect humans. We're not judging you for not doing everything right. Okay? And we don't want to take things away from you. That is not the goal. So many people don't want to come to me or talk to me about nutrition because they're like, well, you're going to take away my snacks and my favorite desserts. And that's not the case. What a good provider is trying to do is help you explore and find new things that you can add into your life, things that nourish and support you. And often those things we end up enjoying more because we feel good after we eat them or after we do them. That's the real mindset shift that needs to happen is when you're changing your lifestyle, when you're changing your diet, it's not this negative, gross experience of removing all the things you love in your life. No, 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 it's quite the opposite. It's a beautiful and exciting experience of trying new things and really taking massive ownership of your life. Okay, so today we broke down the major health approaches and the professional titles associated with them. But what can we do with this information? If there was something that piqued your interest, Google it. If you have a question, comment, or story, then email, text, or DM it to me so I can highlight it on the show. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you learned something new and felt inspired or blessed. If you would like to support more content like this, leave us a review on Apple Podcast, subscribe, and share this episode with somebody who would benefit from the content. If you'd like to learn more about my practice, head over to thehealthhabit.net or follow us on social media at thehealthhabitllc. Now, go get some sunshine on your skin, get those smiles in, and I will see you next time.